This is what I recommend straight out of my own class that I teach to my students is the resources they should bookmark. And so I brought you everything today out of that.
I love that. I mean, I'll link your course below. Everyone who's watching, if you can afford it, go and sign up. Jason does an amazing job. Live training, right, that you do like 4 times a year, is it?
Yeah, 4 times a year. For bug bounty hunters and pen testers, it's pretty cool. And then this is the same kind of stuff that we teach all of our juniors at Butterbot too, when we're getting them on the red team. And it's like, have these things bookmarked, ready to go, because you never know when you're going to need to refer to a print resource of some sort. So.
And you mentioned the word print there, and we were discussing offline. You don't have all of the books, physical books with you for some reason, right?
No. So I wanted to like hold them up, and be like, hey, I have this book. But the problem is that, especially this one, the first one on the screen is the Web Application Hackers Handbook. Many of my books, when I have juniors or new people that I'm trying to mentor in the scene, like they end up giving, I end up giving them to borrow to the people, right? And then I never get them back, which makes me supremely happy as like an educator that I don't get them back. But I never have a physical copy in my house. It's a funny story is one of my best friends is Daniel Miesler, who's been in information security forever. And the way I met Daniel was through this book that we're going to talk about right now. Is I went to the live class associated to this book many, many years ago at Black Hat, the security conference. And at the end of that class, they do a CTF. They have you pair up with another person in the CTF. And so I looked around the room to see like who I wanted to pair up with. And I saw this dude who had this book, the Web Application Hackers Handbook, and the binding was just like, you could tell he had cracked this book thousands of times, right? And it's just like, it is so worn, the binding of the book. I was like, that's the dude I want to do the class with. And so that's how we met, actually, was at Black Hat through this book. So
I love that story. I've heard criticism of this book, though, that it's outdated.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. So the Web Application Hackers Handbook, second edition, is what most of us in the application hacking world would say is like kind of like the Bible of web hacking, right? And so at this point, yes, it was published in 2011. It is very old, as far as publishing date. The thing is that application security vulns haven't really done a ton as far as how complex they are, or how interesting, or how novel the new stuff is. So I always recommend people to start with the Web Application Hackers Handbook. It has like a wonderful plethora of intro topics and also technical depth for the base level of vulnerabilities, right? So you're not going to find another book that's published today that does probably a better job of talking about SQL injection or cross-site scripting or some of these vulnerabilities that you're going to find as an AppSec person. You can start with this, and then you can realize, yes, there have been some novel vulnerability classes that have come out that are not in this book. But that is why we're going to talk about kind of what this book turned into, for kind of the world. So the authors of this book are David Studdard and Marcus Pinto. David runs Portswigger, and Portswigger is the company that makes Burp Suite, a quintessential tool that all web application hackers will use. And then Marcus Pinto is either the owner or on the leadership team at MDSec, which is one of the best pen testing companies in the world, based out of the UK. And so when they got together and made this book, after they made V2, many people requested a V3 and just keep on, bringing out. And so what this morphed into is that actually David at Portswigger, they decided that, hey, another print resource might not be the best answer to get people the learning that they need to do, and it might not be updatable as we need it, right? And so what they created at Portswigger is the WebSec Academy. And so that is what is really version 3 of this book, and what a lot of people go to these days. And so on portswigger.net, you can go down to get a whole bunch of free resources, basically. But if you go to like latest content or all content, and you just go all topics, basically the web security courses they have here are all templatized and modularized, and you can go into here and learn about your favorite web security topics. And so this is the next version of the book. I don't know if there will ever be a new print version, but they offer it all online for free as a resource. So you could go in here and look at cross-site request forgery. You can see that they do a ton of explanation with sample post requests. They walk you through the vulnerability. And then WebSec Academy also gives labs for each section. So there are CTF style labs that you can do for each one of these modules. And so this is what the book has morphed into these days.
But you'd still get the book.
I would still get the book. Yeah. I find it useful to read the original content, right? Like none of these web pages can beat a chapter or a whole chapter of research on cross-site request forgery. So I would still get the Web Application Hackers Handbook. I would still own it, and I would still lend it out to a lot of people who are learning.